Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this morning's session. This morning, we're looking at fixed assets and also posting depreciation within your accounts. Session should last around about 45 minutes, and that includes picking up your questions along the way as well. Today, I'm joined by Tina and Abby, who will be on hand to help answer any questions that you might have. So keep them busy through the session if you've got anything. A little bit of housekeeping though before we get started. Your microphone will be muted. It'll be done automatically for you, so you can't verbally ask us any questions, but if you've got anything for us, all you need to do is type your questions or your comments into the questions panel, which you should see at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you can't currently see that, all you need to do is click on the little icon on your toolbar, the one that looks like the speech bubble containing the question mark, and it will then display that. So anything and everything, pop it in there. As I say, I'll be in Tina, and I think we're joined by Jackie now as well. We'll be picking up your questions. There is a couple of options for downloading handouts today as well. So if you'd like to just view the handouts, there's an option where links, etc. will work on that. So you get the colored version. If you like to print out your handouts, which I know some of you do, then there is a print friendly version as well. And hopefully I've uploaded the right one today. So those are both available via the handouts option. Again, that's available on the toolbar. If you forget to do that or you lose the option, then we make it available afterwards. So watch out for your follow-up email, and it will include the links that you need. Let's have a look at what we're going to be covering over the next 45 minutes or so. So a little bit of background into the fixed assets ledger. We'll then move on to the fixed assets ledger itself and run through some demos. So we're going to be looking at setting up records, running the month-end option to process the depreciation for those fixed assets. We'll look at asset valuation, the disposal option, also touch on reports. There aren't many reports available for fixed assets, but we'll have a quick look. I'm then going to pick up on the depreciation methods that you've got available within the software, and also how they calculate as well. So just to give you a little bit of more information about that. Now, I'm only going to pick up on the three options that are actually supported. I'm sure some of you will maybe use other methods as well, because there's a few more than what I'm going to cover today and what's supported within Sage itself. So we're just going to run through those three. We'll look at manually posting your depreciation, maybe give you a few tips on other options you've got as well, just to make that a little bit easier for you. And then just at the end, we'll pick up on additional support as well. So if you've got any additional questions as well at the end, we'll hang around to answer as many as we can. But keep the questions coming, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. So we'll get started. So a little bit of background first of all. So the fixed assets ledger, what are the benefits of using that? Well, you're able to obviously set up your fixed assets, set them up as an individual record. And the idea of using the fixed assets ledger is it's used to calculate depreciation as part of that month-end process. So it means if you're using it, if you're not already, you then need to start running the month-end. Now we'll come on to that process as part of the demonstration today as well. Now the depreciation that calculates within the fixed asset ledger and posts as part of that month end is actually calculated on a monthly basis. The fixed assets ledger cannot be used for annual depreciation. If you do it on a monthly basis, it will still add up to the equivalent of your annual depreciation, but it will calculate and process it on a monthly basis. If you need to do annual depreciation, it must be posted as a manual journal, and we'll touch on that towards the end of the session. Now, availability-wise, the fixed assets ledger is only available in Sage 50 Accounts Professional. If you're not sure about the variant of the software or the level of the software, to put it in other terms, that you're actually using, so some of you may be using Essentials, some of you may be using Standard, and some of you will be using Professional, then you can check that within your software, just go and help and about. And in the middle column that appears, it will actually have a title variant, and it will actually say either Essential, Standard, or Professional. So what we're looking at today, the fixed assets ledger, that part of the software, it's only available on the professional level. Right, we'll start running through some demos in just a moment as well, so you can see what we're actually talking about this morning. So we're going to start looking at the fixed assets ledger. We're going to look at setting up records, give you an idea of the information that you'll need. So two main tabs within the fixed asset register within a record. There's the details tab, got a screenshot of that one, and also the posting tab as well, where you'll actually set the depreciation options themselves, such as the nominal codes, the methods, the rate that you're choosing as well. And it's worth noting as well that you can use data import. And I've got a quick example of, just so I can show you that. Now, I don't think it's massively used on the fixed assets area, but it is an option. Sometimes it can be quicker to set your records up in the likes of a spreadsheet on the import template and then bring them in than it is to sit there keying in the information directly into the records themselves. Now, one thing to bear in mind when I set up a record is that it doesn't record the asset in your nominal ledger itself. So if you buy a new vehicle, for instance, and you set that up as a fixed asset, the idea of adding it into or setting up a record for that is so that it will post depreciation as part of the month end. It doesn't actually show that going into your nominal ledger. So it doesn't actually show the purchase of that asset. You would still need to record that separately, whether that's via likes of say a purchase invoice or via a separate journal entry. If you need advice on getting it into your accounts in the first place, so showing that purchase, then there is information available in the help centre, and obviously our support team is on hand as well. Right, let's take a quick look. So we'll switch across to my screen and we'll start running through. So the fixed assets ledger, if it's available to you, if you're on the professional level, it should be on your toolbar down the left-hand side. If you are on the professional level and it's not available to you, it's either going to be your access level, so it hasn't been enabled for your username, or possibly you've hidden it in the past. So what do I mean by hidden it? I always like to mention this one because it's a good way of tidying up your toolbars as well within the software. Just right click on your navigation bar on the left there, and then it will give you a list of options that are available to you. Now the diary, I very rarely see people using the diary option in 50 accounts. So it's quite often people will remove that option and just hide it. So to hide it, I would just switch it off. So it could be that you've done similar in the past with fixed assets. So it's not on my list, even though it tells me at the top I'm on the professional level. So just right click. If it's there, tick it, and it'll then be available to you. Right, let's go into the fixed assets ledger. And as you can see, it's just completely blank. I've basically got a blank company this morning, just so we can run through and you can see the impact of all the processing that we do. Now to add a new record, nice and easy, we just click new. And then it's just a case of filling in some information. So we'll pop in an asset. Now, if it's a vehicle, probably the most common thing you're going to use is probably the registration of if it's a vehicle. So we'll just put some basic information in. I'll just say it's a car. And you've got 3 lines of description there as well. So 3 lines, I believe it's 30 characters in each line. Pop in your serial number. It's not an essential field, that one, so you don't have to fill it in. Same for the location and the employee. Pop in the date purchased. Obviously it's picked up today's date. So again, just for record purposes, pop in whatever date you need. So I'm just going to say it was the 12th of January. Now that is for reference purposes only. It doesn't impact on when you run a month end, when your depreciation ends or starts or anything like that. It is there for reference purposes only. Similar for your supplier accounts. And then finally, we've got that assets category at the bottom as well. So I've got 3 set up in my case. If you're looking at yours and you're thinking mine just says it's got the numbers only, to pop descriptions in, I'll come back to that one in a moment. I'll show you where you can specify that one. So that's the first tab. Second tab is the posting details. Posting details lets you specify the department. your balance sheet nominal code. So I just choose motor vehicles. Now it's the balance sheet depreciation nominal code. So don't get caught out with that one. So it's not the motor vehicles, it's not the asset nominal code itself. It's in the fixed assets, but it's the depreciation nominal code that you want to specify. Same for the profit and loss depreciation nominal code. Now, depreciation in the profit and loss normally in the 8,000 range. So I just type in 8, and then it makes it a little bit easier to find the code I'm after. Depreciation methods, which we will pick up on in a lot more detail a little bit later on. You've got the choice of straight line, reducing balance to give its official title, or write-off. And I'll explain how they calculate later on in the session. For now, we'll just choose straight line. I'm going to choose a rate of, let's say, 25%. Cost price, we'll say, let's say 15,000. And I'm going to say I bought that brand new, so at the point of when I've entered it, the book value was 15,000 as well. Now, the information it gives me at this stage, just at the bottom here, tells me what the next depreciation value will be. Now, that is the monthly calculation if I was to run that month end. I haven't got any depreciation to date. I would have a depreciation to date if I'd put in a different book value from the cost price. So if, for instance, I put £10,000 in the book value, it should automatically calculate depreciation to date for me, but I'll just set that back to 15,000. Make sure I've got the right number of zeros in there. So our depreciation to date is 0. Date last posted, nothing in there because I haven't processed the month end and chosen to depreciate my fixed assets yet. And at this stage, I'm just going to save that. And that's how easy it is to set up an asset record. Now, the one thing I did mention about the asset records there was the asset category. So I mentioned I've got the 3 set up at the moment. So if I wanted to set those up, all I do is I go into settings, into configuration, the top option, and then I'll have a fixed assets tab at the top. And this is where you'd set them up. So the numbers are set up automatically for you. So you've got 1 all the way through to 99. So we'll just highlight your relevant category. You would click edit, pop your title in there, and just OK that. Now, if for whatever reason you did want to use it for something other than maybe your fixed asset categories, then you can change the label. Now, the label is just the bit of text that appears in front of that box. So if I just call it category, as an example, let's see if I can type that correctly. Just OK that. And if I go back to my fixed asset record, you'll see it changes that a bit of text there. Save it. So that's obviously setting up your records manually. You do have the option, of course, to import them, which I mentioned I'd run a quick demonstration of. So quickly showing you how to import. On my desktop, I've got this, I've already downloaded the import template, which is just a basic Excel file. It's got my headings along the top, and then I've got 2 assets entered against them. So sometimes this can be a little bit quicker when you're maybe just setting up fixed assets for the first time. If you download the template, I'll show you where you can get that in just a moment. But if you download the template, fill your information in the relevant columns for each of your assets, and then you'll be able to save that and then import that into your accounts. So I've only got the 2 on there. So we'll just close out of that one. Go back to Sage, and to import those asset records, I just go to File, Import, just click Yes to close any other windows that I've got open. It launches the data import wizard. Now, if you do want a copy of the templates, easiest way to get at them is to go to File and then Import. And in step 1, you've got this link here. So in paragraph 2, you've got that here link. If you click that, it will open it up. And what you're looking for is this file here, the fixed asset record full template. If you open that one, it'll just be a blank version of what I've already filled in. So that's where you would get that if you need it. Right, going back to Sage and the data import wizard, we're on step one. Step one always prompts you to take a backup, and I would always encourage you to do that as prior to actually importing any information, whether it's records or transactions. So make sure you take that backup. If you make a mistake, you select the wrong file when you import, you can always restore to set your data back to where you were. I'm just going to skip past that though. So click next. Choose what it is I'm actually importing. So it's fixed asset records. I'll then browse for the file. So on my desktop, make sure it is the one on the desktop I'm choosing. So there it is, select the file. It does contain headings. It just maps everything automatically because obviously I'm using the import template. So I don't need to manually map anything. Click next, click import, and then it tells me it's imported these two records. So I just click close. Then go back to fixed assets, and there's the one I created manually. Which one was that one? And then the other two here that I've imported. Now I did mention as part of the sort of setup process, when you add in an asset record, it doesn't post anything into your likes of your nominal ledger itself. So if I go into transactions, for instance, it's still completely blank. It hasn't posted the purchase of that fixed asset. That still needs to be done manually. But that's the basics of setting up records. And if you've got any questions, as I say, Tina, Abby, and Jackie are on hand to answer any questions. So pop them into the questions panel and they'll pick them up. If we pop back to the slides, next, I want to quickly pick up on the month-end process. Now, the month-end process, there is a recording of this available from when we ran a recent webinar. So if you've never seen the month-end before, you want more information about maybe some of the other options that I'm not really going to cover in today's session, then do check out the recording. The link will be included on your follow-up email. So you get that round about an hour after we finish today. So month-end, there's an option on the month-end process, which we'll see in the middle, at the bottom of the middle section there, to include depreciation of fixed assets. Again, it will only show this option, it will only be available to you if you're on the professional level of the software. Now, there's a couple of considerations with this as well. So we mentioned the date, the purchase date. That does not act as a start date within the asset record. So if you're busy setting up your asset records and you think, right, I'm going to set them all up before I start depreciating, what you can't then do is say, right, say the first, let's say you've got three records like myself. You can't say, right, that one, when I go back to, let's say, month one of my financial year, I can't say, right, I want to depreciate that one, and I don't want to depreciate the other two until partway through the financial year. It will depreciate them all on a monthly basis across the board, any that are set up there and then. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're sort of playing catch up with this option, you need to add the records as and when they need to be included in that month-end process. Remember, it does it on a monthly basis as well, hence it's included as part of the month end, and it cannot be used for annual depreciation. It will always do it on a monthly basis. Things to think about as well if you've missed a month. If you have missed a month, if you've processed subsequent month ends, then it depends what you've got set up as to the best course of action. So I would probably always recommend in that situation, maybe get in touch with our support team just to discuss that to see in your situation what the best course of action is. Postings wise, it will just post some journals for the depreciation, which we'll see when we process the month end in just a moment. We'll do that now. So let's get back to my screen. We've got our three fixed assets set up. I'm going to pop into the tools menu, choose period end, and then choose month end. Just click yes to close any other windows, and we got that month end option. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go all the way back to January in this instance just so I can demonstrate a few different month ends. So what I'll do is I'll set that date back. So we'll go all the way back to January. If I just tab out of that field, you'll see it changes to January 2022 at the top. And the only thing I'm going to do in this month end screen is tick the box to include the depreciation of fixed assets. Prepayments, accruals, we've covered those in a separate webinar. Similar to lock date, that one option there. And also in the month end option, the month end recording itself, we obviously talk about the month to date turnover and zeroing those down as well. So we just want to concentrate on the depreciation of fixed assets. So I'm going to tick the box. I'm going to choose to run the month end. So just click yes to that prompt. Tells me the month end process for January 2022 has been completed. So I'll just OK that. And that's it done. If we pop into fixed assets, you'll see that we've now got our cost prices, but we've also now got some depreciation to date. And also you'll see that the book values are being amended as well. So cost price less any depreciation to date. Now, in case you're wondering, just for those of you that have got a bit of an eagle eye there and you're thinking, oh, these two are both 12,000, they've been depreciated once, but they've got different values. I've got different methods applied. I've actually got the same rate applied, but I've got different methods applied. So we'll come on to the methods a little bit later on. Now within a record, so we'll go into a record. Now within a record, I was going to show you the, where is it? So just completely, my mind went completely blank there. Right, so sorry, that is the month end. So if you just pop into transactions, you'll see that the journals have been posted as per the nominal code specified within the posting tab for each of those records. So we get a journal credit to the balance sheet nominal code and a journal debit posted against your profit and loss depreciation nominal code for each of the assets that we've got set up. Okay, so that's the month end option itself. We'll just quickly move on. Go back to the slides. And I just want to pick up on some of the other options that are available within the fixed assets ledger. So you've got first of all, the asset valuation option. Now the asset valuation option, when you go into this option, it doesn't give you a lot more information than what's already on the fixed assets window itself. So other than you get some totals. So you'll get a total cost, total depreciation, total value. The layout is pretty much the same. You've got an option as well if you need it to send it across to Excel. So probably not apparent why I would do that with having so few assets on there, but if you've got loads of assets, loads of records, then you may find that useful. Let's just have a quick look at that option. So back to my screen, into the fixed assets ledger, and it's the option at the top was valuation. That's what we want to go into. Now, when I select that, obviously this is a bit like the screenshot we've just seen. It pulls the same information through. And actually, if I just drag this down, you'll see it's got pretty much the same information in there. So we got the asset reference, you've got it on the main screen, you've got the description, cost price, depreciation to date, and book value. So the only benefit you're gaining using that valuation option is you've got the totals readily displayed at the bottom here. So nice, simple option, that one. Next option I want to quickly pick up on with you is the disposal option. Now, sometimes when I've run this session in the past, and I used to run this session many years ago, and probably the biggest I suppose the most common query or comment I would get relating to this option is the fact that when you use the disposal option, it actually automatically deletes the record as well. And you can't avoid that. It will remove it. That's part of the process. So what the disposal option will do is essentially it will dispose of the asset. So it will post the relevant journals to your nominal area to essentially as if you've sold that asset. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, but I suppose the key point is that it deletes the asset record as part of that process. So be aware of that one. Let's have a look at how it works. So back to my screen. We'll just use this one at the bottom here. This one I've got listed, this RT12 ABC that we set up at the beginning of the session, and we're just going to go into the disposal option. So it brings up this option here. So fixed asset to be disposed of. Choose your reference. You've got a sale of assets nominal code. It will pick that up by default. If you've got a different nominal code you want to specify, you can do that. Pop in your posting date. It's going to pick up today's date, but obviously if you need to backdate that, you can. Choose bank account that any proceeds are received into. Pop in your department. You can pop in the gross value of that sale. So let's just see what we should put. Let's just say it's 14,500 that we've actually got from the sale. It's not we're not getting whatever our book value is. We've sold it for 14,500. And I need to pop in the original purchase nominal code as well. So let's say it was that one. And it's calculated, obviously, the original purchase tax code. It's picked that up for me. I can change it if necessary. So if I purchased that asset and it did use a different tax code, I can amend that. So it's worked out the net sale value from the value I've keyed in and also the VAT. So it is the gross value that you're keying in at the top. Just click next. It generates the journal for you. It tells you what's going to be debited, what's going to be credited. It's quite common. In the past, if you're not using the fixed assets ledger, you would be doing this manually. And you would do a journal virtually identical to what it's showing. All I need to do at that point is I click post. It'll post that journal for me. And as you can see, it removes that record. So that record is now gone at that point. So it doesn't leave it on there and say it's being disposed of. It deletes the record. If you do need any reports prior to that, make sure you print it out before you use the disposal option. So if I just pop into transactions as well, you can see the journal that's being posted. So from transaction 7 to transaction 13 in this case. Now on the subject of reports, if we go back to the slides, that's what I'm going to take a quick look at next. Now I mentioned at the beginning that there aren't a great deal of reports available in the fixed assets. It's not a massive area of the software, but there are some. So we'll have a quick look at obviously just the reporting area in general. Potentially you could design your own reports if you wanted to go down that route, and of course you could amend them as well. And if you've never used the report designer before, then why not sign up for some of our webinars that we run? Tell you a little bit more about it. Right, let's just have a quick look at the reports option then. So just like all the other ledgers in the software, you've got a reports option. So within fixed assets, we just pop into reports, and you've got your 4 folders on the left. So you've got your favorites, which I've got nothing added as a favorite at this stage. You've got your My Fixed Assets report as well. So if you do design your own reports, by default, that's the folder that would be saved into. So by default, I've got 2 empty folders. I've got a fixed assets list. So you've got various reports in here. And also you've got a fixed assets valuation. So if you wanted to, if you've got loads of assets and you want to print it out and group them together by category or by department, then you can do that. Paul, you just mentioned there that you mentioned, so I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of whether something should be vatable or not. So you mentioned there isn't VAT on cars, so why declare it on the sale? So you would just need to know, obviously, when you enter that disposal, you would just need to use the appropriate tax code. I was just using an example. Right, okay, so you've got your reports. I'm not going to run any of them. If you want to see what they look like, just if you've got any asset records set up, just run through, preview them. You can always obviously just hover over the preview option. It would give you an idea of what the information would be, or what it would look like on the report, and the kind of information that's included. Now, the one big bit of advice I would give you, if you are on the professional level, is have a go. If you want to find out more about how the option works, yes, obviously you'll have access to the recording that we're creating today. You'll also have access to the help center information, but have a go. You've got access to the demo data and the practice data. So it means that you can set up asset records. You can process a month end in those areas. You can use the various depreciation options. You could even try importing into the area as well, but have a go of them. You can access those just by going to File, Open, and then either choosing Demo Data, which has got loads of preset information that you can add to, or you can go into the practice data, which basically starts from a blank company, which is always good from my perspective for demonstration purposes. As you can see what's actually getting posted, you're not getting distracted by any other information. If you've not used those before, they are a really good resource, the demo data and the practice data. Obviously act as a good training tool as well if you've got anyone that's new to Sage, whether you just want to have a bit play around with the software, or maybe you want to see how a certain option works within the software. So just File, Open, you have the two options at that point. Now next, I'm going to go back to a little bit of theory, and I just want to pick up on depreciation methods. Now, I can't tell you, and our support team can't tell you what method you should be using, and also, or what percentage you should be using either. If you need some advice on that, probably best person to speak to, your accountant. Your accountant might just handle all the depreciation side for you. So I just want to quickly mention and run through the three methods that are available within an asset record. And the first one, and probably the most common, is the straight line method. It's a nice simple option, this one as well. So if you were doing this one on an annual basis, straight line method would just be the cost price times the depreciation rate. And you would normally post that as a journal. So in this case, you would have a depreciation based on, say, £12,000 at 25%. You would depreciate that as £3,000. You probably do that on an annual basis as part of the year end. You would put that journal through. Now in Sage, it does the same calculation, but it divides that evenly. So as part of that month end, you're going to see £250 posted in each month. Over the course of the year, if you've done 12 month ends, that's going to add up to your £3,000. Just spreads it out. That's probably the most simplest method. On a slightly more complicated method is the reducing balance calculation. And the idea of the reducing balance is that it will depreciate at I suppose, at a higher rate, or it will depreciate more at the start of the life of an asset, in that depreciation will reduce over the life of the asset itself. So the basic calculation on an annual basis for that one would be the book value times the depreciation rate. Now, in the first instance, that table that I've got on the right-hand side, it's exactly the same. Now, I've got the wrong table on that one, but it would still depreciate at the same rate. So £3,000. However, in year 2, you would have the 12,000 less the £3,000, so your £9,000, and then for year 2, you would multiply that £9,000 by the 25%. So you're going to get slightly less and less depreciation each year. Now, ignore the table. I've got, apologies for that one. I've got the wrong one on the right-hand side there. The formula for SAGE is a bit more complex than that, though. So not only will it calculate year on year reducing balance, it will also do it on a month-by-month basis. So your month 1 depreciation will be a higher value than, say, the depreciation in month 2. Month 2 would be a slightly higher value than month 3. But over the course of the year, depreciating it over 12 months, it would still add up to the equivalent of the annual depreciation. Now, some people like to use this, and historically, it's quite a complex calculation. But if you are using it in Excel, I've included the formula so that you can calculate the reducing balance depreciation value on a monthly basis. The final one to quickly mention is the write-off calculation. Now, if you were to choose the write-off depreciation method, when you next process your month end and depreciate your asset, whatever that value is, essentially the current book value, that will be written off. It will post a depreciation journal for that full value. Now, that doesn't then delete the asset record, but it will write off that book value. So that will just be then down to a book value of 0. So those are the 3 methods. I'm hoping that makes sense. Obviously, the reducing balance calculation, quite complex, that one, but that's it there if you need it. If you do need a copy of that as well, if you download the handout of it, obviously that formula is included. Now, I just want to quickly mention manually posting depreciation, because you might have attended the session today thinking, well, should I be using the fixed asset ledger or not? I'm sure for some you'll be thinking, yeah, I'm going to use that. Others you'll be thinking, well, no, I want to stick with doing it on an annual basis. If you're doing it annually, then yes, you'll have to do a manual journal. Even if you're doing it monthly, you might still prefer to still do it manually. You could use data import the transactions each month. You might not want to use specifically the reducing balance calculation that we use. So again, you might just calculate the reducing balance depreciation annually, but then divide that by 12. Obviously, it's up to you which way you choose to calculate that. To post the depreciation journal, it is a simple journal, so it would just be a 2-line journal per asset. In your instance, if you're doing it manually as well, you might merge the journal values together. So a simple credit to your balance sheet depreciation nominal code, and a debit to your profit and loss depreciation nominal code. So that would just be done within nominal codes and then journal entry. If you're not that familiar with journals as well, we recently ran a webinar on that one as well. So again, check out the recording for that one. Okay, that brings us to the end of the demo of the fixed asset ledger and talking about the depreciation methods for today's session. Just to quickly mention some of the upcoming webinars that we do have. On Tuesday next week, running fuel scale charges, we've got some report design sessions coming up. Session that's almost like popular demand, this one, is Brexit tax codes. You may have seen it advertised on various emails as well at the moment that we're running a series of credit control sessions. And the final session of this calendar year that we're running is year end. If anyone wants to find out more about report design, obviously we've started running those quite recently. So our next session is Wednesday next week, where Tina will be guiding you through looking at groups and sections within reports. So it feels like a completely different side to the account software when you start getting involved with the report design. So if you want to learn more about it, do check that out. If you've got any requests for topics you'd like to see, there'll be a little survey pop up as you leave the session today. Just add it to that. Right, let me quickly thank you for your time for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it and you found it useful. Even if you've come along just to, and you think, well, actually now I know how it works, it's not applicable to me. Some of you maybe have been thinking about maybe upgrading your software. You might upgrade to add that feature into the software along with others. Others you might think, well, actually, no, I still wouldn't use it, so I'm not going to upgrade for that option. So as long as it's clarified it in a bit for you, that's great. Now, there will be that little survey pop up as you leave today, just a short survey, a few questions on there. If you could take a minute to pop any ideas, thoughts that you'd like to share with us, that'd be greatly appreciated. Your follow-up email will be with you in around about an hour's time. It'll include links so that you can register for future webinars, some of them that we mentioned, for instance. And if you've missed any sessions, or maybe you can't attend those sessions we've got coming up, then we've included a link so you can watch recordings as well. So watch out for that. You'll get that in round about an hour's time. Right. Okay, that brings us to the end of the session. So thanks for coming along. I think we just got a couple of questions outstanding there. So we'll just hang on and quickly answer those questions. If you think of anything afterwards, though, get in touch. You can either refer to the information in the help centre or contact our support team. But otherwise, that brings us to the end of the session. And hopefully we'll see you on some other sessions soon. Many thanks.